Well, I'd been going through quite a fairly bad breakup, and I was in a bad place in my life, and uh, I came across you on Facebook or YouTube, or I came across one of your videos anyway,
Hmm?
and then we got in touch, and you seemed like the man with all the answers, and I'm glad we did get in touch. You are the man with all the answers,
So
given
so
most of them.
the first time you and I spoke, I have to assume you were a little skeptical.
Yes.
I mean, like it's not. I know it's not cheap for most people. Um, and I think you understand why it's not so cheap. It's hard. It is
It is.
hard. It is a lot of work. You know how much time and effort I gave you, how much energy, and you and I still keep in touch even to this day. I still give you stuff from time to time. You know that there's a reason why I have to charge what I charge. But I'm sure the first time you and I spoke, I'm sure there was a certain level of skepticism. Like what made
Definitely a little
what
bit.
what's that?
Definitely a little bit.
Sure. So what made you decide, even though you probably were a little skeptical, what made you from our first conversation, if you can remember, it's been a while, what made you to say, you know what, I'm gonna take the leap of faith here. I feel like it's worth the risk. What was it from our first conversation, or two? I don't even remember how many it was, but what was it from our first conversation or two that said, you know what, this is worth giving a shot to? What made you decide to take the leap of faith with me from our, if you can remember from our conversation?
That's a good question. I don't know.
What made you believe that I could probably deliver what I said I could do?
Well, for starters, you convinced me that you could make a difference, and I just thought I would. If I'm going to believe in anybody, I'm going to believe in this guy.
Okay.
Oh
All
yeah,
right. So okay, so then you took the leap of faith.
really well.
What's that?
And it worked out very well.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question. So after you took the leap of faith and you and I started working together, what would you, for anyone who's never done anything like this before, what would you say? What was it like to work with me? You know, was I in the beginning, was I meeting your expectations? Was I exceeding it? You know, was it harder than you thought it was going to be? Like once you started working with me, how long did it take you to know you were in the right place?
I was kind of still a little bit skeptical for the first 3 or 4 days, but I think by the end of the first week, I was starting to notice a difference in myself and a difference in everything. I started feeling better, and I've never really looked back since.
Good answer. Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of
So
blips, but
so to anyone going through what you went through that is going the classic route, counseling, therapy, you know, if they came across my ad, what would you tell them what they could expect in this process? What would you tell if you were going to describe to them like, hey, you can do the whatever you're doing, but there's another option. How would you tell them? What would you tell them they could expect in working with me?
quicker, better results. But so hard to explain. But definitely
Yeah.
quicker, better results that don't end. It just keeps getting better.
Gotcha. Would you say this process was and is easy?
No, but by no means easy.
Yeah.
It's definitely not easy. That the theory it's quite easy, but the practice of it is slightly different, and it's hard work, and you've got to put the work in.
Mhm.
But if you do the training, you learn. Simple as that. If you put the time and effort into it yourself, you get back from it what you put in. I know this from the couple of times that I've stopped doing it and how things go bad sideways quickly. But definitely, if you get back from it what you put in tenfold. I think, in my opinion.
So how would you say how long ago was it that you did the program?
Eh, 14 months ago now.
14 months ago. So now that it's been 14 months, how would you say your life has changed in the last 14 months?
I'm a lot more confident, more self-assured. I am doing what I enjoy doing. I can work through things easier. It's just, I feel like a new person. How, not very good with words, but
You're doing great, man. You're doing great. All matters is like people understand, all matters is you're just conveying your experience. You're doing great. I mean, that's really, like again, like I said before, all matters is people understand like this is not bullshit. Like I'm not paying you for this. This is a real thing. You went through a really tough fucking time. I mean, do you remember what it was like when you were when you and I first connected? Do you remember what that was like?
yes,
How would you
I
describe
was,
that?
I was in a bad place, a very bad place mentally. I was, I had gotten better from what I was before on the path to meeting you. I was getting better the whole time, but meeting you and that and the program was just amazing. The results were amazing. Made such a difference. Set my life back on track. And even though I've strayed off a couple of times, but now I think my life's properly back on track.
How do you feel about your future now, Scott?
Pretty good about my future now. I feel very good about my future now. I've just landed a massive advertising deal. I have a invention eventually into the patent office, and I'm not quite sure if that means it's patent pending yet, but I must contact them. But so now I'm a inventor and proud owner of a new mail order business, and work's picking up around the local area as well. So it's all going well for me.
And I guess lastly then, how do you feel about your future as far as in relationships? How do you feel now with the skills, the tools you have now about your ability to attract and keep the right person?
That's a bad one because I did have a girlfriend a little while ago, but unfortunately my ex-wife decided to mess that up. But
Well,
I got
I get it. I get it might be challenging still, but
yeah.
look at what the skills and tools you have now compared to how that situation probably would have been if you never did what you did with me here. How much harder you think that would have been?
Yes, it was definitely a lot easier. I can
There you go. Look, and this is great for everyone hearing here. No one said this is easy. I mean, I'm not a fucking oracle. I'm not promising, guaranteeing what people are going to do or not do. What Scott learned and what, is a tool that can make things easier so you can bounce back quicker. It does not mean people are going to do what you want them to do. It certainly does not mean they're not going to be certain key players in your life. They're not going to try and do certain things. I'm not a fucking oracle. I can't stop that. Never promise that. It's simply a tool to bounce back quicker and be much more in control, even if someone does try to interfere with things like you're saying there, Scott. So it's actually not a bad thing. The funny question I like to ask people, it's funny because it really sheds light on something very clear. Is it not obvious that if you didn't have these tools and you were dealing with the ex-wife and those shenanigans, it could have been quite a bit worse, a lot harder, and a lot more excruciating?
I would agree with you 100% though, yeah.
There we go. And this is great fun to hear because it's like, in the end, everyone works me for themselves. I make that really clear. I'm not promising guarantee whether people are going to do or not do. I'm a human being just like you, man. I got my own challenges. I got my own Lex Luthors and people like that sometimes create havoc. But remember, a great superhero a great superhero would never be a superhero without a great supervillain. Superman needs Lex Luthor. Superman would never be Superman if Lex Luthor did not show up. He'd be just flying around, saving cats from trees. That's a boring fucking movie. We need people that actually allow us to rise up and become that superhero we're meant to become. So sometimes that happens. So in what Scott's saying, which is really great for everyone to hear here, you're working me to feel better, quicker, faster, stronger, more and more control, more and more consistency, more of the ability to reduce that refractory period so you can get back to a place where you're still enjoying yourself, even if ex-wives from the past are being a little bit of a hindrance. So what I'm saying to you is, with the tools you have now versus how things might have been in a previous life, in the future, you meet somebody new. How do you feel about your ability to navigate that, handle it, and still have a good day, even if things do not go the way you want ultimately?
Yeah, I don't think there's any situation I can walk into now that phases me.
And that's fucking freedom. That's what this is for. So everyone listening here, that's what this is. It's freedom. It does not mean, remember, Scott, true or false? At the end of the day, again, I'm asking Scott I'm asking him for the first time here, or I believe so. Would you not agree? And I think everyone listening to the call here will agree too. True or false? What you want, the number one thing you want at the end of the day is not complicated. You want the ability every day to get even better at enjoying your life, bouncing back, regardless who's in your life, not in your life, what people do, not do. More and more every day, even more of the ability to, from a practical standpoint, enjoy your day, regardless of the challenges. Isn't that what you want?
Yes, exactly.
That's what everybody wants. So that this is a true exercise in independence from your external world, period. It just so happens when you start moving up the emotional ladder, and you, like in your case here 14 minutes ago, you started here, Scott, and hey, I know things are not perfect, never said that, but fuck, we're a lot better, faster, quicker, stronger. At this level, the world must respond to this version of Scott rather than that version. And this version has more control. This version has more consistency. This version has more freedom from the external. Does not mean people don't piss you off, get in your way. What doesn't mean that at all. This is not a manipulation course. It's a conditioning course. It just gives you the ability to still enjoy your day, even if, quote, certain people want to try and be an annoyance or a hindrance. That's all it is. So how do you feel, Scott, about your ability every day from this point onwards, because you know I don't have a part 2 or part 3, but how do you feel about this point onwards to week over week, month over month, year over year, from now to the fucking end of time, to get even better at enjoying your life and even more of a declaration of independence from your external world to feel freedom?
I feel like I'm ready. I feel like I get better every single day.
And you
Not
do.
every single day. There's still the odd day that sets you back, but yeah, by the end of the day, or at least early the next day, you feel better. Anything that happens, there's nothing the world can throw at you that's too much of a challenge. You just, I suppose, challenges are the rite of passage to get to where you want to go.
Don't you think that's the way to live, Scott?
Definitely the way to live, Lance.
Who would not want to live that way?
It's a good question.
The answer would be silly, right? It's like who would not want to live like that? Yeah. And just to close off, to anyone listening to the call here, look, I'm a human being just like you. I mean, we're as human beings, we're always meant to, you're designed to feel the full array of emotions: sadness, fear, anger. I don't make people into robots or lobotomized creatures. I'm pretty sure Scott would agree. He's still a human being at the end of the day. I'm still a human being at the end of the day. We feel everything. We just don't stay in those shitty fucking emotions for long, extended periods of time where you're not in control. This is true control, true consistency. It does not mean you don't feel things. Certainly not. Does not mean that people don't try and get in your way. It just means you don't stay there. That's what everyone wants at the end of the day. And that's why you want to do the process. But again, you show up at this level versus that level. The world must respond differently to you. The world must respond according to the version you bring to the table. It just so happens when you're here versus here, you're more likely to attract and keep the kind of people you want. And it makes it easier for you to get past the people, even if they try, to keep them away from you, and so they can't keep wasting your time and your energy. That's all it is. And that's game, set, match.
Sure is.
Good. Great stuff, Scott. Thank you for sharing that. Really appreciate you. I know this has not been easy. It's 14 months later. You're a true testament to the process, and true testament to, again, it was a workout. Never said it. You remember our first conversation, I'm sure. I tell you, it's not a magic trick. You'll move, grow, evolve, strengthen within the confines of human biology. You're 14 months in, literally undoing decades of eating emotional cake. Great. You're going to keep moving forward. but you will continue moving at the pace. Well, actually, if anything, faster than before, but you'll continue moving at a pace that, again, ultimately is within the confines of, again, your human biology. And that's it. Keep doing the workout, keep doing the process, higher and higher you go.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it is, and lastly, close here to anyone listening here, ultimately, this is a lifetime process. What I worked with Scott for 6 weeks. I work with him directly for 6 weeks, give him feedback for 6 weeks, teach him for 6 weeks, but there is no advanced program. People do this for life. Scott is still doing the program process 14 months later. He's still got challenges. There's no unicorns next to him when he wakes up in the morning, but he still does, again, better, faster, quicker, stronger. And that's it. And for anyone who's going through any kind of emotional challenge, you really don't have to suffer. I'm not saying you won't go through challenges, but you don't have to suffer through them. You can work through them, get stronger, lift more emotional weight in this gym, just like you do in the classic gym. And that's it. Bottom line. Scott, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lance, too. Thanks for everything. I mean that from the bottom of my heart.